The Blackmagic URSA Mini Pro G2 not only helped my filmmaking career, but it changed the way I create videos forever. It is easily the best camera I have personally ever owned, so then why would I be selling it? And more importantly, why am I choosing to sell it right now? And I guess you are all wondering what camera I am choosing to replace it. So, do I regret buying my URSA Mini? Let's go back to the start. Prior to the URSA, my main A-cam was a Sonet FS5 Mark I. That was around 3 years ago now that I decided to sell the FS5 and purchase my URSA. I did pick up my URSA Mini used for 5,800 USD. But that was just for the body alone, so no batteries, no memory cards. I have since then gone on to get the shoulder rig accessories, put cages on it, get endless amounts of V-mounts and multiple CFast cards. You know how it works when you purchase a cinema camera. All that said and done, I did jump into my accounting software and run a quick report for the last 3 years of owning the URSA Mini. And excluding a couple shoots here and there where I've hired in an ARRI Alexa, I have used the URSA as my A-cam on roughly 600,000 USD worth of projects. Now remember, this is just the top line and it's far from profit. Once you've taken taxes and multiple wages for crew members, etc. And we need to remember that URSA is one tiny part of the full production when it comes to equipment and gear. If we just take those rough lazy calculations I did, that means that the URSA costing 5,800 USD has roughly done a 100x in terms of value on projects it has been on and been pretty much the A-cam capturing all the footage. So when people ask me, do I regret buying the URSA? It is not only the best camera I have ever owned, it is in the top 1 or 2 best investments I have ever made when it comes to business terms. I have had a camera on my bucket list for a very long time now, probably a decade, but things may have just changed recently in the past few months. Before we get into that though, I need you to hit the subscribe button, as the more subscribers I get, the more time I can spend creating this content, teaching all you filmmakers out there the mistakes and lessons that I've learned over the last 15 years. So please hit that sub button, let's not waste any more time and dive into the camera that I will be getting next. When I started taking this video production stuff seriously many years ago, I asked myself a question that I'm presuming a lot of people did and still do to this day on their journey. That question is, what camera do they use on those big, massive movie and TV show productions? Now, we can argue all day about IMAX cameras, 35mm film, and even 65mm film, even red cameras, and on and on. But I'm pretty much sure that everyone will agree the camera that has dominated for the last 10 or 15 years is the ARRI Alexa. So I've always had a bit of a personal goal and used to say a statement like, one day I will own an ARRI Alexa. And I guess being young and naive, I felt that that would give me some sort of validation, that it would make me get more respect or somehow make me a better filmmaker. Many years later now, with a lot more experience behind me, I guess my reasons for wanting to own an ARRI Alexa have slightly changed. Stick with me here, there's a twist coming up, I promise. For the past few months, I've been looking on the used market for an ARRI Alexa Mini. Although I feel I don't need that kind of validation anymore, and I know that being a good filmmaker is simply about what is in front of the camera, I feel that the badge ARRI still holds somewhat of a value in today's world. It should be down to how good you are at lighting and composing and directing and filmmaking in general. But that is just not how the world works most of the time. But here's the twist. I'm no longer buying an ARRI of any kind at all. Just this past week, I went down to the BSC Expo in London to look at all the new cool film gear that I will do a quick fire shout out for in a second, as there was some unannounced gear there. I'll put that at the end of this video, so stick around for that. There was one main reason in particular I went, and it was to check out a certain camera. Just before I tell you what camera I'm about to purchase, let's talk about one of my favourite cameras that has been released in years, and it is the one you're watching right now, the Panasonic Lumix S5 II. This camera is the absolute value king in today's camera market. And what's even better than that I've been using this thing for over 12 months and put everything I know into one simple guide. This guide has over 3 hours worth of content broken down into different sections to make it all really simple and achievable to work your way through it. And it will allow you to get the absolute maximum quality out of your S5 II or S5 IIX. It is simply astounding how good of an image you can get out of this camera for its price point. If you want to find out what all the sections and topics are inside this guide, the link is in the very top of the description. Okay, back to the camera I'm going to be buying. Let me try something and see if the answer that I come up with matches the answer that you guys also get. You pick the top 2 cameras that you have seen on social media, on BTS videos, BTS images, excluding maybe the camera that you own, as your feed is probably tailored to what you like, from big budget to small budget. If I shoot to name just 2 cameras. You thought about it? You got it? Well, my personal answer would be 1, an Alexa of some kind, just an Arri, as that pretty much covers a lot of the big budget stuff. And secondly, it would be an FX Sony camera. I think specifically the FX6, I see an awful lot across docu style work, even events and sport work. I see it on cinematic and corporate work, the kind of low to medium budget productions. I see a lot of FX3s, FX6s and FX9s. And if I'm totally honest, where I am on my journey in my career, I'm not filming big, massive budget movies. So my need for Alexa is kinda a bit invalid. So I guess that leaves me in the awkward situation of needing a camera that's going to get me work and is somewhere between a Sony FX6 and an Arri Alexa. Has anyone guessed it yet? You see where this thing's going? That's right. I am buying the Sonet BANO. Ever since the BANO was announced, it has had my attention. I think it is aimed at a super interesting kind of filmmaker that has probably not been aimed at before until this point. I say Red aimed for this sort of market where the BANO's going. But what Red has never had is IBIS and autofocus and all those hybrid features that come along with a Sony BANO. It is a Cine Ultra camera, which means no compromise when it comes to image quality according to Sony. So this thing should mix with the likes of a Venice, that is an Arri Alexa competitor. I still think the Arri badge holds something that a Sony BANO does not in terms of getting work. But I run a poll on my community page just out of curiosity. What would you want to buy, a used Alexa or a Sony BANO? And I was expecting the Sony to get absolutely destroyed. But to my surprise, this was a super close poll and there was over 250 people voted and the Alexa won by such a small margin. Ultimately though, after going to the BSC Expo and getting my hands on a BANO, I would say there was around 6 or 7 of them at the event, all rigged up in different configurations. Some with E-mount glass, some with PL mount, some in cages, some in shoulder configurations. I spent around 20-30 minutes maybe just going through the menu and messing around with one what was mounted on like a table tripod. I also got the opportunity to put one on my shoulder, check out the viewfinder. I pretty much looked at all the different cage manufacturers and how they will be rigging them up. My takeaways from spending some time with it in person are how much more professional it looks and feels in build quality than an FX6 or even an FX9. I know this costs more, so you'd expect that, but you can really tell that Sony are definitely aiming this at being a B cam or even an A cam to the Venice, and definitely not something that pairs up with an FX line camera. That takes me to my final reason I have not pulled the trigger and pre-ordered the BANO. My plan is to get one in on loan from Sony or hire one in, shoot an actual real project someone is paying me for. If it produces the results, I hope it does, I'm simply going to pull the trigger and buy it and put my URSA up for sale. I did say I was going to do a quick fire round. First of all is No LED by Godox. It is insane how much they have grown as a business. The quality of their No LED series is so much better than what they are known for. Seeing their lights next to Aperture and Nanlite is quite insane how well made they are. Speaking of Nanlite, I'm super interested at their new Pavo Slim lights. They had 2 new ones that have not been announced yet, in 2 slightly different shapes. One of them is twice the size and is much bigger and does not involve you stitching 2 of the smaller ones together. comes with one power supply, and they even told me it's going to have one of those pop-out softboxes to keep it super fast when pulling it in and out of its carry case. And my number one most impressed thing there was the Blazer Remus anamorphic lenses. These things are so small, so light, and so affordable. We have never seen anything like these for a 1.5 anamorphic lens for the price point of like $800-900 per lens. That is quite insane. If you want to know what else I predict will be getting released later this year, click here.